So here you can see what I've got. Let me just come over here. I know I don't have my annotate. And just for the sake, let's go ahead and turn off our sketch to show the clean art we created. So you can see it just looks like I traced it with a Sharpie marker right now. And like I said, everything is closed off. There's no openings, for lack of a better term. And that's going to come in handy when we come now to go in and paint it. So what I'm going to do is lock my ink layer. And between the two here, I'm going to make this layer, and I'm going to call this paint. Call it color, you could call it whatever you want, but it's just important not to color on your ink layer, because we're going to use the layering system, because it's kind of like a coloring book and staying in the lines. We don't have to stay in the lines because we are going to be beneath the lines. So I'm going to go ahead, kind of zoom in here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here on the eyes. And if I want to, I can even hide my sketch right now, right? So I can see what I'm working with. Now, some things I can start to work with here is painting. Now, the question, of course, is colors, right? What colors to choose? So I'm just going to start off with a color here, just for the heck of it, and a paintbrush. Let me go ahead and make this now be a round paintbrush, a little larger. So you can see if I go to paint now, I can turn off my smoothing now. So I'm not in accuracy mode. And you can see I don't have to stay in the lines. I can go outside the lines. I mean, I can even come here and go way outside the lines with my paint, grab an eraser, and then erase what I don't want. And that's the power of working in that method of being beneath that layer. Go ahead, and I'll just go ahead and paint this here. Like I said, I don't have to stay in the lines, because I can come back with an eraser and erase outside the lines. Or I could just paint over top, minimize that, and I could just paint over the color that went outside the lines. Problem, of course, is, go ahead full screen a second, how do we choose the colors instead of just pulling them out of our head and saying, I think this will look good? Very rarely do you have that. Even animators, filmmakers, game artists, graphic designers, interactive web, they have to work with the palette, and they have to work with a palette that literally works. There is a cheat for that. Okay, this will totally blow your mind at how easy it is to work with color. Okay, and what I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to a Google image search, and I'm going to type in something that is interesting. Right? Something that is, attractive. I'm dealing with frog, but I could type in anything here. I could type in and find a photo. So I'm just going to choose a photo here, right click, save that image as, and I'm going to use that just by saving it to my folder. I can then use that as my base for my color palette. So any beautiful picture is going to have, or anything based and photographed in reality is going to have a color palette built into it. Let's go ahead and I'll put it beneath my sketch layer, make a new layer, and place that photo in. And this could be, again, any photo that's nice. I do this with people who are like, hey, I don't know what color to paint my house. I say, send me a photo of your cat. Send me a famous painting or something that you find you like the colors to. Minimize it. I'll put it right about here. Gauge it. And watch what I'm going to do here now beneath. Okay, I'm going to come here, draw a box. And I can either use these minimize or subtraction boxes here, or I can hold in the Alt key, which will give my selection box a negative symbol. Just like that. Now watch, I'm going to grab my eyedropper. Oh, it looks like something I'm going to have to do here before I even get started here, though, is layer, smart object, and rasterize it so I can edit it on that layer. grab my eyedropper tool here and start selecting some colors. Paint can, fill. So paint tops, there we go. Eyedropper, let's choose this little yellow green here. Eyedropper, let's choose this kind of lighter yellow. Eyedropper, and I'll choose a different variable green, maybe this darker green. And you see, I've created a color palette based in nature, based in reality, and these colors work, right? Something else I can do here is double click. And when we double click a color, you're going to notice it's going to give us 4 different color modes for that color that is chosen. It's going to give me an HSB color value. It's going to give me the lab color value. It's going to give me the RGB color value. It's going to give me the CMYK. So it's 80% cyan, 19% magenta, 100% yellow, and 7% black or carrot. It also, most importantly, gives me this code here. And if I highlight this code 308F43, and if I hit copy, Command C or Control C, that is the color code for that value of green. Let me grab the T tool, click, paste, go ahead here, and I'm just going to change this to be black. Again, I can go to the character size here, make it smaller. Hold on, let me give you, let's admit all of them. And I can move this color code, I just made it, into the color, just underneath the color. And what that color code represents, guys, that is the pure color code for that color, meaning I could take that number 308F43 and take it to Home Depot and they'll make a paint for it. If I want to order textiles from, like, I don't know, China, in that specific color of green, it will be in that exact color of green. That is the universal color code for that value of green. And no matter where you work or no matter who you're dealing clients with, when you create a logo, for example, for someone, you have to have the proper color code, because for all future references, let's say you make a color code, well, you take SBC. The logo for SBC is a specific value of blue, a specific value of yellow. So when they make masks or when they order, I don't know, polo shirts or the uniforms for the football or whatever, you know, baseball, whatever, softball teams, they're that value of blue. They have to be. It's an exact color code match. And I can go ahead then and do that for all my color codes. So this is why I was saying before, this is a professional proof or mock-up. Whoops, not that one. Let's do that again. I keep forgetting that color. Double click, copy. Come on. Paste. And I would do this for all the appropriate colors. Do you have to do this? No, but it is good practice, especially when you have a critique or you're dealing with another class, maybe you're concept designing something, and the teacher's like, why did you choose these colors? And you could say, well, I based it on something in reality, and the color code and the pattern works. So you never, ever, ever have to guess or colors ever again. And they will always, always work. In fact, let me just bounce back here a second. Watch if I do this. Kiwi space. There are companies out there, guys. Look at this. See? Makeup companies, interior design companies, fashion companies. It could be a new line of china for or dishes. It could be, you know, anything in the world has, and all they're doing is color picking And you can't really see it maybe, but a lot of these actually have the color code at the bottom, just like I showed you. And look at the websites, icolorpalette.com. I mean, there's more of them. Pinterest, House of Claire, Color Hex. There's a lot of companies where people just make the Royal Palette at WordPress.com. And I don't care what the heck you type in here. And they're just saying, hey, I can find a photo in nature. Now, of course, I'm getting all makeup ideas for color palettes, but I guess that's where they get the color palettes, right? They get them from something in nature. Kitten doesn't really seem to be pulling anything up. Type in anything here. Crab palette. There we go. See, photos, palettes. Look at them all. So it's no different, like I said, when you go to look at, and again, you see more color palette, that icolorpalette.com, color hex, colorwall.com. So I'm not making this up as saying, oh, well, this is something that's neat, cool. This is something that actually exists. And these colors, when you pull them out using an eyedropper, they all work and are proven. Oh, I guess I should have spelled the word palette right. There we go. I guess that's better. See, pulled from there, and those colors work. And that could be the new line of makeup. That could be the new line of T-shirts. That could be, anything you can think of. Painting a kitchen, anything, a website, a logo, an app or a video game, even movies follow color codes. So you go and you watch a Pixar film, or if you watch, a big blockbuster film, Harry Potter, notice how Harry Potter got darker and all of its colors got darker, the more serious the theme got. But in the beginning, when everything's happy, everything's are bright golds, bright yellows, purples, but then the values get darker as they go. So everything follows a palette. Okay, so once we get that color palette example there, I can actually, this is another example to show you here. I can actually highlight, expand my layers, hold shift and highlight to see all my color palettes, layer, merge those layers that are selected. So now they are one. And I can even, watch this, layer, merge down to merge it to my color palette. And I can even call it palette, okay? And lock it so I don't accidentally use it. Now I have the colors to paint as needed. Now I could actually have found maybe a bluish tone in there for the eyes, but let me show you what we can even do now. Okay, let's go back into our coloring process. Okay? Because I've already colored this blue, right? But watch what I can do. I can use my magic wand tool here to select the blue. And you see I've selected the blue. Paint can. Watch if I go now to my colors. You see they're loaded up here in my swatches. So I could say, you know what? I'm going to make her eyes be that value and paint can. In fact, I don't even have to select it. I could just roll over it and paint it because it's already been put down. So we learned how to color using brushes. We learned how to color now using selection and paint cans. So watch how quickly now I can work. Select her face. Oh, let's go and make sure we're on the right layer. Right, I'm going to go to the ink, select her face. You notice it's not letting me do it. There it is. I've now selected her face. Drop down to the paint. Grab my swatch for her color for her face and paint her face. Magic wand, layer. Let's go back to the ink, select her hair. Okay, go back to my paint can, go back to my paint layer, choose a color for her hair. Let's say this light yellow. Okay. Now, the magic wand is quick and easy to select something, but you will notice if I deselect, there are some corners that don't quite get filled very well. This is where, again, you can go into a small brush and fill in those corners that the selection, the magic wand did not select. See, like right here. in those corners. See, to get much more accurate. Go around her eye. See where it's a little off. Corner of her eye. Let's go back to inking and painting, right? Select her hood. Now this is a neat shortcut because I know her hood, her rain jacket, is in pieces. So I can hold Shift, select this piece. You see how I get a plus symbol when I hit Shift? Or what's doing is it's switching to this button in the upper left to say add. Add, add, add. Get this little section in between her hands. Let's go ahead and get her boots. Oops. Okay, but that's why we need to close off all of our line work so the magic wand works when we go to select it. Let's see, I think I'll make her jacket be dark green. Okay. Let's deselect it. Let's go through and see where it missed some spots in these corners. So it's just a very efficient, quick way to put some color down. All right, and this little corner up here. Whoops, make sure we're on the right layer. Ink layer to select the hands. Hold Shift plus to include the selection. Paint can, still have, I need the brown now. Make sure we're in the proper layer. That's why we locked it too, so we wouldn't accidentally paint in that layer. Deselect, double check some of the corners to make sure the edge is actually getting painted. Right there. Now, the problem with this frog here is you notice down below, I didn't close that off. So that's an example where I can't just use the magic wand because it's going to select all of this beyond. So this is just a short little shortcut here. So what I'll do with this frog here, oops, let's make sure we choose our right color. I'll go with that green there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to draw a line to seal that off. Like so. Maybe make it just a little larger. Okay. And I may even want to come around here and just trace the edge. Again, don't have to be super specific in detail here. I can go underneath and behind, right? Go outside, because I can always go back and erase what went outside the lines. You'll also see a lot of times people will just stay outside the lines. They'll actually keep it kind of, you know, simple and just leave it perfectly fine. But because I've closed that all off with my green, I can go now to my magic wand and select the inside, hold Shift, select green, paint can, fill. And you see how it gives this little halo? I like to just give it one more click to fill it in. Let's go ahead, deselect. And like I said, I can clean it up a little bit more if I wish. Like I said, a lot of illustration guys, people keep it when they go to ink and paint like this, they'll actually just keep, you can see even using the eraser tool, I can clean it up a little bit. And the more you zoom in, the more you start to see these little seams. See that? Where it didn't quite paint all of it. And actually, watch this. I can actually do a shortcut key even here. Like let's say the brown of her leg here. If I just click it once, you see it actually, or twice, it actually starts to fill it in, or just follow it. Like I said, when you zoom in like this, but this is why we're working large, because by the time we shrink this down to smaller sizes, that one pixel, which is not filled in, actually ends up getting filled in when we shrink it down. See, or I could be very accurate and fill it in. See, more accurate, more accurate. And that's just because when I use that magic wand, it's got an offset to it. I'll show you guys next week where we can actually do a step, because when we cut things out, oftentimes it's cutting the pixel in half. So you end up getting a half pixel of this kind of halo or white. See that? And it's kind of sloppy when we're doing really high quality work, where you can actually do a selection and make an adjustment to say, hey, shift all those pixels one pixel over so we don't get that halo. All right. Zoom on out here. And so you see really quickly, oh, wait, let's do this. In fact, this is a good chance to actually show you what I'm talking about. Watch, I have the ink layer. I'm going to select her eyes. See that? Now, if I do it just once like this, I'm going to get that little halo here. Watch what I'm going to do here. Select and mask. And this opens up. See, so it only shows what I've selected. Now, I happen to be in the black and white mode. So what is white is what is selected. But look what I can do down below here. I can smooth that selection. So rather than being jagged selection of pixels, it's now smooth and it's going through those pixels. I can feather it a little bit, and I can shift the edge a little bit beyond what I actually had selected. So that now, instead of just being that part of the eye I've selected, it's gone a little bit beyond it. Okay. Paint, fill, fill. And you'll see now, if I zoom in, the white halo around there is much, much less. Okay. And even here, while I've got it here, I might as well put some hot spot on the eye. Add some life to it, right? Okay. So now we're really starting to go here. We're really starting to get, oh, I forgot the leaf. Son of a gun. All right, do it quickly again. Watch this. I'm going to do that shift. All right. Select the leaf, select the mask, smooth it, feather it, offset it, shift that outward. Go to the paint section. Pick a paint color, paint can, fill, just like that. And now I've actually offset that. Did I leave? No, I didn't. All right, I have these water droplets here. Let's just do quickly. And again. So just another process here. See, I'm offsetting the selection, I'm expanding it out so it goes beyond. And even though I don't have a blue here, I'm actually going to pick a blue just because I kind of use that. Make sure we're in paint and fill. Okay, even doing a double click. Go ahead and save it. Control S just to save what we've got, because now I can start to do, now I've got the base color. I can leave it like this, right? And just leave it alone. But I'm going to show you a few more tricks. Let's go ahead and, oh, while I'm at it, watch how cool this is. Because the pencil sketch is underneath of it, if I wanted to do like an illustration where I've done a lot of shading work and everything with the pencil, I can actually change what's called the blending mode here. It's not working right. What do I do? Oh, I have the sketch invisible. Let's bring the sketch back. And watch what I do with the paint when I change these blending modes. Darken, multiply. You see how it shows the underlying drawing with all the shadows, shading. Look at that. Burn, linear burn. And what these blending modes, they're mostly used in a lot of photos and photo editing, but it lets the underlying drawing show through. And basically says, this is letting the darks show through, this is letting the lights show through, this is letting the medium grays or in-betweens go through. There's even inverts, so I can invert the colors, just the hue, saturation, the color only. See that? And that's kind of cool because it kind of gives you almost like a watercolor or a light little wash of color. And all that work you did with the pencil is still being able to be used. I'm just going to leave it at normal now. Lock my layer. Now I'm going to make 2 layers. Shadow, new layer, double click it, highlight, because really all you really need to worry about when you're doing a lot of this, just go to black and white, is all you really need is a single value color and then light and shadow. So I'm going to start off with the black or the shadows. Okay, but I'm going to go down to my paint layer here to use my magic wand and do my selection. So let's go ahead and choose. Now, what if I want to choose all the green at once with my magic wand? That requires me deactivating this button here called contiguous. Right up on top, contiguous. And by deactivating it, when I click, you see it now is selected all the green of that value. So now I can go to my shadow. I'm going to choose a soft brush now, a little bit larger size. And I will make the opacity down a little bit, just a little bit. Remember, because it's own layer, I can always control the opacity right here. And I'm going to create an element here for shadow. See how that works? Pretty cool. Now, some of you may say, well, it's a little extreme. Well, like I said, I can always change the opacity of that shadow later on. Something else I'm going to do here, watch how cool this is. Because I've got that green, all that green selected, I want to split so I only have the top part of the leaf here. So I'm going to hold in my delete or my, see how this button changed here to change to subtract? That gives me a negative symbol. I'm going to subtract all the green here down below that leaf. So I only have the leaf on top selected. So that'll allow me now to come in, see, and just give a shadow onto just that's selected. That's pretty cool. We go back now to my paint layer, select all my green again, like I just did. Let's go to the highlight. And I know she should have a shadow on top of her because she's got a giant leaf over her head, but hey. And I can come in here and just put some, or I choose a smaller brush even, right? To actually be able to get in there and do a lot of detailed shape. Okay, just like that. Let's go back to our paint. Let's choose all this yellow. Paintbrush, highlight. Swap color. Shadow, paint layer, all the brown. That, swap to the white. Highlight, back to the paint layer, all the green, or the light green. Highlight to highlight layer. Shadow to the shadow. Now you'll see because of paint colors, you see because this might make an issue here. You see how this light and shadow is actually over top of the ink. Go ahead and move the ink on top of it. Okay, that gives us a good ink value. Guess I forgot one more paint color here. And that is the blue of water droplets, which I'm just going to do a highlight. No shadow. Oh, maybe I do a shadow. Why not? like I said, if it's too extreme, I can turn the opacity of all my shadow down, or again, I can use these blending modes. I tend to prefer some of these others, like see where they work, multiply, but maybe make it less visible, turn it down a little bit, go to my highlights. I like using like overlay. So instead of white, it's actually just lightening the green. You see color dodge. That's kind of cool, but it's actually making the white lighten the green. Maybe back that down a little bit so it's not pure white. Oh, and one more layer I'm going to add here above the ink, white brush, small but yet soft, full opacity, because we are dealing with something here that is involving water. I love doing this. Watch this. See? I'm just putting some more shine points, you know, on to make it look like it's actually wet. Call them hot spots, call them whatever you wish. It's just a neat little addition to illustration work when you do this. Like I said, I'm showing you very much the comic booky style. I do a lot of children's books this way. And again, those are just kind of examples of where the water might be collecting, and it gives the illusion of something being wet. And there you have it. And even those, you may find those might be a little too intense. Well, it's on its own layer, so you could always back it off. See? So it's there, but not as intense. I can even do a blur to it, so it's not as, you know, as crisp. I can go to a filter and add a blur. I could change it to being, see, so instead of white, it's a color dodge or a lighten or some other, you know, value. See, the overlay looks kind of cool there. But I'm just gonna leave it normal. I kind of like the white. All right, go ahead, Control S or Command S to save it. So what have we accomplished? We've got our clean artwork, our original sketch, proof of color here, proof of concept. So now what I need to do is move all these guys and merge them. Now that I've saved it, right? And I've saved it in version A, I'm going to go ahead and unlock all the layers that I need. So I'm going to leave sketch, leave palette, leave the background unlocked. And I'm going to select them all. Layer, merge layers, or it's Control or Command E. This will allow me now to move it over. Okay. And now that I've merged it into one layer, let's go ahead and save it now as the next generational copy, which would be, of course, assignment 1B. Just to cover my ass, right? I don't want to get messed up there. Let's move the good clean artwork over there. Now, scale, rotation, all this stuff, guys, is under the edit. There's a transform options here: scale, rotate, skew, distort, perspective, warp. There's also rotate 180, flip horizontally, all that. But you see Control or Command T is the free transform. So I don't even have, it's a shortcut. Control T gives me the option of scaling. And since it's good, clean artwork, I might as well make it nice and large. And you see my grid lines automatically make it work. And you notice one thing I'm never doing. I'm never going all the way to the outside. And that's for print purposes. You never want to go crazy like that. And so you see now, I can come here, call it Final Design. And look how cool this even is. I'm going to duplicate that layer. Command or Control T. Shrink her down to about that. Like so. Activate it. And look how neat this is. Again, image adjustments. So I can do a quick little hue saturation shift and say, you know what, maybe the client wants to see this in some other value. So maybe he wants to see it in a purple, maybe desaturated purple. Okay. If it's too dark, you could go back to, like we did before, the levels, find the middle value and just back it off a little bit. See? So it still has black, still has white, but it's the middle value that I've adjusted. Command copy C, I can put another one here. I could do another color variation by changing hue saturation. I can change it by putting in a gradient ramp. I can change, invert the colors. I can replace colors. I can equalize the colors. All this is potential here. So I just go to hue saturation now. Let's just give this in a totally different color value. I kind of like the blue. Maybe I'll boost the saturation back up on the blue. Or look at this even. I can say, yeah, but all greens, they're going to be changed into a different color. Actually, it would be greens. No, it would be blues. Because her face was originally blue. See? So now I'm only affecting the blue value of this one to change the color of that. Very cool. Quick. There's nothing more impressive. You say, hey, I based the artwork on a color palette. However, maybe you'd like to see it in a variation of colors. It's kind of like what I do again when I'm dealing with whatever client I happen to be working with to demonstrate, maybe it's colored sheets or something like that. Maybe it's, logos or T-shirt art. I'll do it version. I'll put it on a black shirt. Certain colors will work, certain colors won't. So that's what's left. Now we need to put this on some merchandise. So how do we do that? Well, let's start with the obvious. T-shirt, okay? And this is where we have to understand the file formats that are out there that are there to save you time. And that is a T-shirt PNG. And that is because the most common thing that turns up when you put up PNG is it gives us a transparent option, meaning it's already got no background. It's already cut out of its background. Now be careful though, because a lot of times it'll say, hey, I'm not on a background, but when you click on it here, it already is on a background, right? It showed it on a checkerboard. And when I zoomed in on it, it shows it on a checkerboard. Those are not PNGs. And if they are, they're not providing the transparency because the company is PNG. They're trying to sell you that. Whereas if you find a shirt, let's try this. Let's try this. I'm trying to find a decent shirt here that's a decent color. Let's see this green shirt here. Did you notice when I first clicked it, or when I saw it here, it's a white solid. But when I click on it, it turns into a checkerboard. That is a true PNG. That has, see, and you have to give it a second. See, that's not transparent. If it's transparent, it'll show up as transparent in the preview. There, see, now you see the checkerboard, but over here it did not have it. So what I can do here, I'm just going to save that as, make sure, of course, when I save it, it's going to the right folder. T-shirt as a PNG file, save. And now I'm going to make sure I'm in a lower layer. Let's go ahead and place embedded. Remember, place embedded. And look at that. It is, if I were to move this up, you see it's got a transparent background. See, even in the thumbnail here, it shows it as a transparent background. Let's put that there. Not cramp it to the corner. Let's go ahead and find our final design here. Duplicate that layer. Command Control T to scale it. And place it onto our shirt. Now, again, it's kind of a poor shirt to put it on because it's a, I guess it's you call that a button down as opposed to I know I typed in t-shirt. That's not a t-shirt, that's a button shirt. But you can see how I can place it on there. And a lot of people are like, yeah, well, that's great, but what if you don't want a red shirt? Hey, adjust, hue saturation. I can make it any color shirt I want. What else can we put this on? Well, that was a t-shirt PNG. A wine bottle, right? I'm doing label work. Maybe I want to work for a brewery someday and put it, see what this stuff concept-wise looks like on a can. Again, the image I selected was on a white background here, but when I look at the actual image, you see it is actually got its checkerboard, which means it's a true PNG. Bottle. Photoshop. Make sure we go down to the bottom. There it is right there. File, place embedded. Bottle. Now this is where we might have to get a little bit of creative with our placement of things. Because I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know what, I'm going to put this next to her here. So remember, your layout matters. I put that there. Then I can, let's see here, move this design over here. There's my palette. I'll unlock my palette, Command T. Even here, I can select the kiwis. Grab my selection tool. Let's go ahead and just move that over. See that? So I'm working on my layout and design. And let's see now, where's our little one here? Let's duplicate it, move it over here and put it on our wine label. Just like that. Might as well save it. Save it as that PSD. Last thing we need to do is put the necessary information. Black, font, Arial, black, love it, easy to read, big bold font, right? Name. Course. Right? Assignment. Right? Anything that is of important information as to what you use to build this project. And again, I could figure out, maybe I'll put that right there, and maybe just scale it up a little bit. Oops. Yeah, I saw a hand went up. Just give me a second. Just like so. Why do we put all that information? Because that's the information. If I'm sending this to a client, this may be the first of 5 variations before they decide, yes, that works. Can you change it? Or you know what? Can we make the frog bigger? Can you change the colors? So this might be concept 1, concept 2, concept 3, and you need to date and document that. Not to mention, I call this a portfolio piece because this would be something you would put into your portfolio to show not just your professionalism, which what this demonstrates, right? You go to DeviantArt, you don't see this, you just see art. And we're not learning art, we're learning design, functional, applicable design. And that's what we're dealing with here. It just shows control of, hey, I can concept something out. I can digitally ink it and paint it to create a good professional, clean design. I can defend my color palettes and why I chose that. I can apply it to objects so you can, again, get like a working model of what it would work or how it would look. I mean, that girl on the bottle there looks pretty cool. So when we're all done here, again, I'm going to save it one more time just as a PSD version B. And now we need to look at, again, what we're dealing with here in the deliverable. So it's a 300 DPI, which we know it is CMYK. It's 11 by 17. We followed the rules of putting it on some stuff. We just need to save as a PDF. So what do? File, save as, Photoshop PDF. This time we need to name it something. So I'm going to say last name, right? Assignment 1. And before I hit save, I might as well create a new folder because remember, we have to put this in a zip or a compressed file, which would be the same name. So I'm now saving it into that folder without having it. You could always make the folder later and then move the stuff in there, obviously. This is important here. We saw last week when I was trying to preview and show you the prior students' work, the one took a very long time to download. And that's because the default here setup is high quality print. Preserve Photoshop editing capabilities. Don't ever give someone preserve Photoshop editing capabilities because then they don't need you. You just gave them everything they need so they could turn around and be like, yeah, you know what? I've changed my mind. I'm not going to do it. When in reality, they're like, hey, thanks for giving me the file I needed. Now I don't need you anymore. So choose the last option to protect yourself. Smallest file size. This will make it faster download, upload, faster to email, and you're protecting your work. Save PDF. And just like that, we've saved the PDF. Again, I'll get to your question here in a second here. Hold on. What's next? Next, we step down to the next largest file, which is a 300 DPI CMYK, which we've already got, saved as a TIFF in a printing purpose. But what we're going to use that is we're going to use our final design. None of this is going to go in there. So all I need to do is select this layer, right, which is select all, edit and copy, Control Command C, file new. And when you hit file new, the size of that image here is in the clipboard. See that? So all I need to do is just hit create. It's already 300 and then paste. Now, I typically will just, shrink it down just a little bit so it's not on those edges. So that is now, and I could even take this background, which is white, and delete it. So it's on transparency. How do we save now as this 300 DPI CMYK TIFF file? Save as TIFF. It has to go into the folder, which is already loaded. See, so I can load it up. And this would be the last name, 300 TIFF. Save. Now, this is dealing with compression values. It's good to know you can compress this if needed for small file size because TIFFs are very, very large because they're for print. For our purposes here, just go OK. You don't need to worry about it. It's still not going to be incredibly that large. Moving next, we have the 150 DPI black and white or grayscale version. All right. Image, size. It says it's 300. We want it to be 150, which is half the size. Hit OK. And it's now half the size, but now we need to go to the image mode and convert it to grayscale. Why grayscale? Because grayscale is still used. They still use it in print, laser engraving, and digital masking for like sandblasting. If you're a CG artist doing 3D and you're doing texture, bump maps, and normal maps, and all these other ways of creating depth are controlled by gray, not by color. It's values of gray, or black or white, where white are 0 or are peaks, and black is actually valleys or 0. So if you're doing a bump map, let's say for a game character, black would actually be the divot and white would be the peak. So think about your fancy games now, which your characters have scars or they've got bump where you can see physical, raise in the texture. that is a bump map or a normal map. And that is using black and white and gray to create that, not color information. All right. Next, we're doing a 72 DPI PNG with transparent background as a saved for web sticker process. Well, we got to go back in history here and take away the grayscale. So let's just go to delete that history one. We need to go to the image size now and switch it down to a 72 DPI. Okay. We already have the transparency, so we don't have to worry about that. And now what we need to do, if I go to save as though, you're going to see it does not give me a PNG. Oh, and look here, it does give me a JPEG, but not a normal JPEG. So ignore JPEG 2000. So we can't save as. Well, if I keep going down, save as, save and export. Look at the very first option here, quick export PNG, bam. And it's already set up for the proper folder. Last name, sticker. You don't have to put the word PNG because that is actually the file extension. Save. And that's it. We now have saved as a PNG. Last but not least, we're still in 72 DPI, but now we need to convert to an RGB, which, believe it or not, PNG automatically did. But we're going to convert to an RGB. We're going to leave it 72, but we need to make the size 720 by 480. So image, mode, RGB. Noticed how the background changed when we did that. Some of the colors will change on you as well when you do that. Now we need to make it be a 720, 480. Now, what happens if we do it here? Image size. You see, I'm in pixels. If I type here and say 720 wide by 480, we are distorting our image. Never, ever, ever distort your image, your photo. It's the sloppiest, most unprofessional thing you can do. I don't care if you're trying to make a photo fit a space. Crop it, don't stretch it. Never. When we do our slideshows in After Effects and the Premiere, don't stretch the image. It is so unprofessional. It will literally not get you a job, not get you a contract. So how do we actually do this? Well, what we have to do is we have to change the canvas size to 720 by 480. But before I do that, I want to make sure that my highest value here, which is height, because we're doing from a vertical layout, right, to a horizontal layout, this one should be knocked down to 480. Then I can come to my canvas size, switch over to pixels, make sure relative is off, and tell the width now to be 720. Now we have a 720 by 480. And why are we putting it on a 720 480? Because that is a standard web size for a file, okay? Meaning back in the day, originally, a lot of digital imagery for the web was 720 480. Just like there's a size standard called a banner that goes across the top. There's a standard size which is vertical called a skyscraper, and they put video, they put animation, they put video in these spaces. Same thing goes with a 720 480. It's a standard size, and you want to make your digital web graphic be those standard sizes, even if you have all this extra space. Because this might have ad information, or this might have text placed in. Now, the last thing we need to do with this is save for the web under 100K. To do that, we go to File, Export, Save for Web, Legacy. Make sure it's not the GIF, which is the default, but the JPEG. You see, I'm currently looking at 100 quality. Because it's a JPEG, it's automatically placing a white background on it because JPEG does not carry that transparency alpha. It is 720 by 480, and the size over here says it's 80K. If the size was larger than 100, we can back down the quality to get it even smaller. Again, JPEG, lossy, it's a lossy, so the less quality, the more artifacts and the more information we're sacrificing. But again, you can see how small you can get this file. So I had it at 100 quality and it was still under 100K, so that's good. I hit save. What am I saving it and where am I saving it? You see, make sure you're saving it to the correct folder. And this is, of course, going to be for web. It's going to have a JPEG tag because that was the file type we chose. Save. All right. Last but not least, all these above files need to be thrown into a folder and zipped. So go find my folder. See, they're already in there because I already created the folder to place them in. Uh-oh. What am I missing? See, I'm missing my for web. No, there's for web. There's PDF. There's 300 Tiff. That's last name sticker. Where is my 150 Tiff? See, I lost my Tiff. Let's see. I didn't double check my folder. Oh, no. Well, there's actually a quick way to discover that, right? If I take this now, watch this. Save as Tiff. That's really bizarre. It didn't save my Tiff. Uh-oh. All right, well, that's okay because I could very easily, I'm just hitting undo, undo, undo. See, now I'm at the 300 Tiff. Just gonna shrink it a little bit. Image size 150. Okay. Image mode grayscale. Don't flatten so I can get rid of my background. There we go. File, save as, Tiff. Let's say 150 BW Tiff. So I know, and I know it's going to go into the right folder now. Oops. And again, I can ignore all those. Now I have the right folder. There they are, all four of them, right? PDF, 300 Tiff, 150 Tiff, the sticker, which is a PNG. It's interesting, it shows it as a black background because it's transparent, and the one for the web. So all I need to do is right click and send to or compress if you're on a Mac. Same name. Look at this. The uncompressed version is 17.4 megabytes. This version zipped is 5.11 megabytes. Here I am in my folder. And all I need to do is select it, come down here to upload. And by the way, you can even see here, if I try to upload this and open, it won't open. It won't upload the unzipped folder. It wants to upload every image in that folder. But if I choose the zip and open, it uploads. Now, again, I can't do it here because I'm actually in student mode. But when you do that, it even gives you a chance to put some feedback, that you can put some notes in there about I enjoyed it, I didn't like it, I had some trouble, this is really cool, I never thought it. Whatever feedback you can think of there, you can basically do. What? Oh, there it is. See, now it's working. See, and then I can put some comments. The other way you can upload that, of course, is going to your Dropbox itself, going directly to the assignment 1. And you see, it's just another way to, see the rubric, add a file, write a comment. All right, go ahead and stop the share here. See, somebody had a question. Who had a question? No?
Yeah. Okay, we can use only the PNG file from the Google. We cannot use the wideband background file from Google, right?
You can use the JPEG, of course. Just remember though, in fact, that's a great question. This will be the last thing I'll show you. Let me quickly just show you, because we already know a little bit here, okay? So again, if we find on Google, let's just take this off and let's just say dog sweater. I don't know, whatever, right? Any image you find here, dog sweater, right? Now, of course, it's going to find me. All right, let me find something better here. I'm looking for a dog that's actually looking at me here. Here, a dachshund, right? Now, that is not a PNG, right? But I could come here and save the image as, and dog day sweater. Could come here and I'll just place embedded the dog sweater. Now, be aware though, you see what happens when you, let's say you had a colored background, like you wanted to do a gradient blue background, you don't want this big white square. But what you can do with this big white square, let me show you here. If I quickly layer, smart object and rasterize, well, what is this big square? It's got white around it or some other color. Magic wand, select that value, and you get the marching ants selecting all that is white. Or actually, let me turn my contiguous back on so I don't get the white of her fingernails. And I can select all that white. That's good. And then just delete it. And what have I done? I have literally deleted the background, see? So that I can use that. I got a little bit more gray to get rid of down here. So I basically have created the PNG with transparent background just by, going in and deleting what I didn't want, i.e. the background. See, there's still a little bit left in there. Right here. Now, if it's got a really heavy, fancy colored background, magic wand won't really work. We'd have to go in and do a little bit better correction. But then you can see how you can then put it on there. Okay, so you can use something other than a PNG. I'm just showing you that on